and I think we have come to an end. I think I have just tried my best to give you in a nutshell manner about all the four codes. Once again, thank you so much, all the participants, for your patient listening. Before I just hand it over to Mr. Ravindran, one or 2 points, please permit me. So actually, in fact, I passed out law degree in 1988. I wanted to go for practice. My inspiration for taking law course is I read a book called Justice Jagannath, written by a popular writer Devan. Right, I think it was of 2 volumes. It was all about mere arguments in a criminal case. Still, I remember, I think one Mr. Ishwaran and one Mr. Karunagaran were the counselors, right? One for appearing for the prosecution and another appearing for the accused. It was entirely 2 volumes. Each volume will run about 500 pages, right? Interesting. I think reading of that book, that inspired me. That is the reason I got into BL, right? I wanted to go for practice. Maybe I was into my final year, 1987, 1988. But during the final year, when I started going to the moot court session, right, practical session, after seeing the conditions of the court, I decided not to go for practice. My sincere apologies for the legal practitioners here. But so I decided, instead of going for practice, let me take up employment with some corporate. So I entered into TVS, and I was there from 1988 to 2005. Then I moved on to Aparajita. From 2005 to till now, I'm with Aparajita. If at all I have little knowledge on labor laws, I definitely owe it to these 2 companies, TVS and Aparajita. Right? That is number one. Number two, I'll just close this presentation, and I would like to share another material. Yeah. So whatever you see, it is. Maybe it is based on it is under code on social security. Now I think feature films, we all watch it, and it is not just sufficient if we see the feature film, and I think the making of the film, it is also exhibited, right? So for coming up with the presentation PPT material, I think this is the step we followed. In fact, if we go through this, I think there are yeah, you can see some 61 points here under code on social security itself. So once the draft is issued, I have a fantastic team. I think one Mr. Madhusudanan and one Mr. Navanithan. They in fact help me in working out all these things. Like I think computer professionals, you must be aware, they will first do the algorithm, then they will do the flow chart, then they will go in for the programming. Like that. In fact, what are all the significant changes? They just picked out all the points. Then I think it will go on for a lot of iterations will be there. Finally, they ended up with this particular material, right? The PPT which I showed you, it is purely based on this for all the codes. So I would acknowledge the efforts of my team, Mr. particularly Madhu and Mr. Navanithan, for supporting me in preparing this PPT. And technically, it is my branding team comprising of Aisha, Faisal, and Vivek. I think they supported me, and in fact, they coordinate with Mr. Ravindran for maybe the Labor Law Practitioners Association in doing this program. And finally, as I said during last week, I was a little bit hesitant. In fact, Mr. Ravindran, when he mooted out this proposal to come up with a session to handle a session, particularly I think it was intended originally for labor law practitioners alone. But what was working in my mind was I consider myself as a learner, right? And I want to continue as a learner till such time I occupy some space in this planet, right? But I know the learners are learned. How can a learner handle a session for learner? It was a big question in the back of my mind. That is the reason, in fact, I was hesitant. But of course, he was very kind enough and he was supportive. He just said, like any other group of persons, I think lawyers, they also do not have time to go through the material. So it is better, we'll just give the gist of what is maybe coming through these codes. Then it is, let them pick up the points and analyze and work out maybe as to their advantage. That is what we decided. And thank you so much, sir, for the opportunity given. Once again, Justice Vaidyanathan, sir, and Justice Kalifullah sir, and Advocate Ravindranathan, Ravindran, my good friend, and all the participants for your patient listening. Thank you so much. And it is over to you, sir. Ravindran sir.
Thank you, Mr. Vaidyanathan. I'm sorry. Thank you, Mr. Vardhan. I must say that you made a mistake by not practicing law. You would have been a very successful lawyer. I don't know. Even now, it's not too late. You can come to the profession. It's very challenging profession, very interesting profession. You need hard work. They say 99% perspiration, 1% inspiration. When you have perspiration as well as inspiration with you, you would have been a great lawyer. But anyhow, it is the last is what I really feel. Mr. Varadan, I must say, apart from your clarity on the subject, you score tremendously on scale in the presentation. Now, in the end, you came out with the I was wondering how this PPT is presented so well. I also present PPT, but it is flat. It is simply flat. But your PPT is excellent. In fact, it is better. Today's PPT is better than the last session. Not only the color was very pleasing, the way in which you segregated it, it's outstanding. Saying the clearing it as salient features, changes, what are the anomalies, doubts, interestingly, financial constraints, governance, and clarity. These last three is something which no one has so far come out with PPT on this. Full marks to you and kudos to you for this excellent presentation. Undoubtedly, we advocates, we say we are learned persons, but you must be knowing it is an everyday's learning. As famously said by Benjamin Franklin, the day you finish learning, you are finished. This is more so apt as far as our legal profession is concerned, either for judges and the lawyers. We all work together to see that justice upheld. And Mr. Justice Vaidyanathan, as I said earlier, is an authority on labor law. And now if you appear before him in a court, before you, by the time you complete 2 sentences, he will give you 4 judgments from his memory automatically. That's how we have to function. So thank you so much for this wonderful presentation. We lawyers have immensely benefited, undoubtedly. Mr. Justice Vaidyanathan is on travel, and it was very kind enough for him to be available throughout the session, and he is also now seen on the screen. We really look forward to Mr. Justice Vaidyanathan's session. I'm sure Mr. Varadan will also be available to again bring out it. We will be there together because we don't have the technical know-how to do this program. So once Justice Vaidyanathan gives a date, we can move forward and have an excellent session from him. Now, before you go to question and answer mode, Mr. Varadan, I have 3 issues to discuss with you quickly. Number 1, is single labor code possible in future? We have come from 29 to 4, 4 to 1. What is your view on this?
I would say it is possible.
Yes.
I think some of our neighboring countries, if you take Sri Lanka, I think the number of labor legislations, it is something less than 10. Right. Even if we take Singapore, I think they have one legislation called Employment Act that covers everything. That comes under Ministry of Manpower, right?
Okay.
So I think maybe we can do that also. It is possible, I would say. I think even when the second National Commission on Labor made their recommendations, they recommended for making it as 5 codes, but instead of 5, now we are coming up with 4. I would say yes, it could be a little bit difficult, but definitely we can come up with 1 code. It is possible, comprising of all the provisions. It is possible. That would be my opinion.
Okay. The second point which is disturbing generally, the practitioners and others is this power of the government provided under these four codes. Certain things exclusively to central government, certain things for appropriate government, certain things for the state government. It gives a bit of a disturbing signal that the object of legislation is there should be a clarity and finality. Scope for interpretation is always there, as you said, but judicial verdict is uncertainty is writ large, but in legislation is not. But everywhere, if you leave to be notified by the government, subject to the government, for example, section 55 of the IR code says even awards, they can withhold it, they can delay it, they can modify it. A legal document modified by an executive and place it before the legislature, it's a bit disturbing. Then again, 300 workmen or more workmen notified by the government. Then on trade union recognition, to be criteria to be prescribed by the government. This all gives a lot of uncertainty and wide powers to the government. Especially now, the recent Supreme Court judgment in Gujarat Mazdoor Sabha case, where they struck down Gujarat government's executive order issued under Section 5 of the Factories Act. They said COVID situation is equivalent to public emergency, which can be only due to security of India or external aggression. Only during these circumstances, 5 can invoke. They invoke the 5 and they get a snub from the Supreme Court. How can you do this? So this excessive power vested with the executive is a bit disturbing. What is your view on that?
I think two things. One is with respect to Section 5. I think you are referring to Section 5
Yes.
of the Factories Act.
Yes, yes.
Right.
Yes.
So powers are given to the appropriate governments in
Yes.
case of some public emergency. But it is very
Yes, yes.
clear in the section itself that when we say public emergency, it is a threat to the society.
Yes,
or the
yes.
part of the territory of the society
Exactly.
by because of war or
Yes.
some external aggression, right? Or
Yes.
even could be because of internal disturbances.
Yes.
I think
yes,
that is
you are
what
right.
it is very clearly mentioned in this section.
I'll just make it clear.
Yeah.
Threat to the security of India by way of a war or external aggression or internal disturbance.
Exactly. But I'm not very sure whether COVID could be equated to that.
So they did. They said it cannot be. They given a judgment.
It cannot be equated. So I'm not very sure again how they can. Maybe it is improper application of that particular section.
Yes. Yes.
Right. That is number one. Number two. Otherwise, the powers. Yes. Obviously, it is to be vested either with central government or state government, or in case if the subject falls under concurrent list with both. But this definitely the position will alter based on the changes in the society. Right. See, the kind of society in which we are in, I think it is different. Maybe situation in Gujarat may not be the same with the situation in Tamil Nadu.
Okay.
So it is kind of because various states putting together, I think we have become one country, right? But definitely with the culture, the language, and the practices, everything it differs. And this can also, the typical example again, instead of 100, it is now getting into 300. But I understand earlier it was 1,000. But because of certain developments, in fact, that got reduced subsequently, ended up with 100. Now, because we may have to go push to business now, so it is more getting increased. So obviously, it would be done by legislature only. So this variation will continue based on changes which are happening in the society. That is what I feel actually.
Okay.
That will continue to be there also.
Okay. The third point I want to echo with you is, as practitioners, we find that the judicial powers given to the executive, I don't underestimate their knowledge or their capacity, but they are overwhelmed by these judicial duties. For example, a Deputy Commissioner of Labor has got a large area to implement the provisions of the Industrial Disputes Act, Payment of Wages Act, Minimum Wages Act, so many enactments. For him to ask him to do that implementation, enforcement, and also carry on a judicial duty of Payment of Wages Act, Workman Compensation Act. It unsettles them really. Is it not time to take away the judicial process from the executive and once and for all hand it over to the judiciary, that is industrial tribunal? All litigations will be only with both industrial tribunal, and the executive will only carry out the implementation and enforcement. And on that, if there is any default, he will move the court for appropriate orders. What is your view on this?
Yeah, I would fully agree with you, because I think they are now, in addition to their executive responsibilities, I think some quasi-judicial powers are also given to them, but which can be considered as a burden for them. So if they are relieved from those duties, I think they can focus on executive job, so that implementation enforcement could also be better, right?
Yes.
I think that would augur well for the society as a whole. I think I fully agree with your views on that.
Okay, thank you. I now
Yes, sir.
invite the attendees to have the question and answer session, and Mr. Vardhan will pick up those things.
No, I think in the question and answer box, in fact, we are already seeing 91 questions. I'm not very sure whether all these can be addressed, but random manner, maybe a few questions I can take up, and I definitely request you also to join, sir. I'll just read out the question. Can consultant claim his consultation period as FTE? Many companies have regular consultant for core work. I think I feel that when we say consultants, they are not at all treated as employees. They are all professionals, right? So I think there is a confusion between the actual consultants and employees engaged as a consultant. So consultant there becomes a mere designation. If that is the thing, then they can fall under the FTE cadre, right? Otherwise, when we say generally consultants, they are all professionals. I think they are just paid a fee on a monthly basis or on annual basis. They are not subject to the conditions or rules and regulations of the company, right? So be it a lawyer, right, or a doctor, or maybe engineer, whoever it is. But if you are availing their services, if you require any job, any consultation or any advice, then you will approach them. They will not actually come to your work, your premises, or stay there for say 9 to 5, do the work. If something like that is happening, then I think that person could be considered as an employee rather than a consultant, right? But now, fortunately or unfortunately, companies have started giving designations as consultants, right? But that company should be very clear. Are they professional consultants or are they employees designated as consultants? There is a big difference, right? Let us be very clear on that. Yes, sir. If you would like to add on anything on this.
No, nothing.
Yeah. Then, in case of any dismissed, resigned employee, there is outstanding loan. Can this be attached from gratuity? No, I don't think you can recover partly or fully from the gratuity, unless and otherwise it is provided under the payment of gratuity. Currently, maybe under the code on social security. It is not possible, right? So that is the reason I said we need to develop a PACA process, because most of the companies, they would say, no, sir, he submitted the resignation yesterday, he went off today. We do not have any access at all, right? I think some process internally we may have to set in, so that the person submits a resignation, then it is 1 month or 2 months or 3 months, whatever is prescribed in the appointment order as notice period. He should serve that. So we may have to establish that process. We may have to bring a strict adherence to that process. Only then, if at all, if there is any due, then we will be in a position to recover it as employers within that period of 1 year or 1 month or 2 months or 3 months, right? Otherwise, no, I don't think it is possible to recover it from the gratuity, unless and otherwise it is for certain reasons which are very specifically mentioned under the Payment of Gratuity Act for forfeiting it. What would be the fate of labor courts in pursuance to the IR code? Since instead of labor courts, it would become tribunals. So definitely, I would require your views on this.
No, yeah, the name merely changes. That's all. Nothing dramatic takes place. They'll be called as industrial tribunals. That's what the section itself says.
Okay, so whoever is presiding the labor court, they will continue to be there,
but
Yes.
they will work for tribunal instead of
Tribunal.
labor court.
Yes.
So I don't think they were maybe nothing will be detrimental to them.
Yes.
No? Whoever is
Yes,
attached
yes,
to
yes.
that.
The section itself says it will be a continuing litigation, or if they
Yeah.
want, they can have a de novo also. So no
Okay.
disturbance, it goes on smoothly.
Okay, fine, sir. Then for open-ended contract with the employee, will the prorated gratuity will be applicable or the regular rule of 5 years? See, I don't know what exactly you mean by saying open-ended. When it is open-ended, it will be treated as a regular employee. Then I think the 5 years class will be applicable, right? So even in case of workers who are engaged or paid on daily wage basis without any formal appointment order, for that person to become entitled for payment of gratuity, I think he should work for 5 years, right? But what is 5 years, how it is to be counted, that is a different story again. But that qualifying service of 5 years will continue to be there for that person, except for the fixed term employees. I think for the fixed term employees, the term must be clearly mentioned in the contract, which has been entered into with that person. And will gig workers include professionals? No, it will not include, in my opinion. Any opinion you have, sir?
No, I endorse it.
Yeah, it is more a kind of unorganized work, right? So it is not a regular organized work. And is there any change in Contract Labor Regulation Abolition Act 1970 by these news codes? I think this is what we have been discussing for 2 weeks, last Saturday and this Saturday. Yes, there are changes. I think, as I said, the regular employees of the contractor, currently they are considered as contract workers. I think once the codes are through, I think they will no more be treated as contract workers. And the applicability of the contract labor portion, instead of 20, the threshold limit is going up to 50. Right, so there are certain changes like this which are happening, and the contract workers are considered as employees under certain codes, which may entitle them for gratuity or for bonus for any other benefits, right? That is also there. So there are a lot of changes, maybe more from the application point of view, right? Even contractor, they are included in the definition of employer, right? So clearly contractors are also now included as employers. So for certain aspects, in fact, the responsibility will just stop with the contractors. For certain aspects, yes, both the contractors as well as the principal employers will have joint responsibility. I think, sir, as we discussed, in fact, the number of questions is getting increased.
Okay.
Now it is, I think it was 91 when I started. We have addressed 5 or 6. Now it is 97. Right. So I think it would be very difficult to address all the queries.
Yes, yeah,
my suggestion is please take note of my mail ID, send a mail. I'll definitely respond to it. Maybe I'll take some time. I'll address it. Right. Varadan@aparajita.com. I've already showed it. You would have noted. So I would suggest my sincere apologies because it is already time. I am also holding you on a maybe weekend. Definitely it's a festival time. You would have all planned for some shopping also. So my sincere apologies. Please send a separate mail to my mail ID. Definitely I will respond. And don't forget to mention that you attended this session, maybe 24th session or 31st session, right? Thank you so much once again. My apologies. I'm not continuing because of want of time. Once again, Ravindran sir, thank you so much, sir, for initiating this. Maybe you can give the concluding remarks.
Yes. I myself, and on behalf of Mr. Ayyadurai, President, Mr. Ramesh, Vice President, Mr. Ravi, Vice President, Mr. Bala Narida, Secretary, and Mr. Nehru, Treasurer of Labor Law Practitioners Association, and also on behalf of the executive members. I first of all thank Mr. Varadan for coming forward to take this load of this session, which we found it was not practicable at our end. So I must thank Mr. Varadan. And the secret of success of this program, Mr. Varadan was very humble to share it with his colleagues. Mr. Navanithan, am I right? Navanithan, Mr. Madhusudanan, Mr. Navanithan, Mrs. Aisha, Mr. Faisal, I know very well, and Mr. Vivek. The team has really put on wonderful. The end product is so good. Now I know why my PPT is flat and why your PPT is really working out very well. It's a lesson to be learned, but it will be very difficult for me to follow it up. Thank you, Mr. Varadan. I must also thank Mr. Justice Vaidyanathan. I was a bit worried when he said I am near Viluppuram, etc., whether he will get the adequate wavelength to have it on the web. Fortunately, he was up to the challenge. He was always so. So he readily delivered the speech. He is even now seen on the screen, probably somewhere near Salem or somewhere. I thank him wholeheartedly. I am also thankful to all the attendees who have participated in this seminar. It shows their enthusiasm to know the subject. Definitely, we will host it together again, where Mr. Justice Vaidyanathan will be the only speaker who will deal with all those things. Thank you so much for all of you. So nice of you. Thank you so much. Thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.